Hi guys, welcome back to the channel for another video. Today's video is one that has been consistently requested over the years, more and more so recently, and I think I know why, and that is how to find a sense of identity, purpose, meaning, and sort of a life beyond not only your eating disorder, but recovery. I think the reason why you guys are asking this more and more on Instagram lives and emails here in comment sections is because the notion of full recovery and people with lived experiences saying it is possible to fully recover is really motivating people to be like, okay, so I can completely overcome this thing. What's going to be on the other side? What am I working towards? It is very, very normal and common to feel like your identity or your sense of self has been completely hijacked by the eating disorder self part of you, and that the mental illness is sort of like a parasite. It latches onto your healthy self, your personality, and starts to turn that part of you against you and starts to come up with these disordered values and beliefs and facts and feelings, and it sort of creates its own other self within your whole self. And we know this because if you had a friend or a loved one come to you and say, I'm feeling really, really bad today and I've had a tough day and I'm going to feel better if I binge and purge, or I'm going to feel better if I restrict, or I'm going to feel better if I binge, you would say, no, you're not. That doesn't work. I'm concerned for you. Can I help you? Can we talk about it? Can we get to some strategies and solutions that might actually be able to help you? So that healthy self is still showing up for your loved ones, but this new split off eating disorder self is showing up for you, right? So that's why it feels like it's such a part of your identity, because it is kind of a parasite latched onto your identity. And as it becomes stronger and louder, not that it's the strongest or the most powerful, it's just the most disruptive and overbearing, it feels like it becomes our whole identity, and it starts to seep into all the areas of our life that used to be ours, like our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, most crucially, our work, our passions. And that doesn't necessarily stop the day that we go into recovery. I see it a lot, and I experienced it myself, that as I transitioned from being completely disordered to incrementally going through recovery and my healthy self getting stronger, I really strongly identified myself as someone going through recovery and someone in the recovery community. And that was really important to me, that transition from a disordered person to someone in recovery. I think some people believe that the sense of self and purpose and identity comes once you're recovered, once you're fully recovered and you've reached that final milestone. But the truth is, to get to that point, there needs to be this reintroduction to yourself beyond not only the illness, but the healing from it. And it's not a reintroduction to your former self as you were before. There's, of course, parts of you which will still remain. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. I know that I did. And I know that that can be quite a sad process for people. It sort of requires a bit of a grieving process to let go of the notion that you're going to return 100% to the person who you were before. But the great news is, guys, is that you'll take the parts of you that were the healthiest and the strongest, and through this recovery process, you'll build on that person. It's not that you just lose the pre-eating disorder person entirely. You're always a work in progress. You're always a work of art, adding and, strengthening and building. And that's the same in the recovery process. You're not a lesser person. You're a more insightful, probably compassionate, empathetic, kind, understanding, patient, peaceful, calm person. And that's more of you, not less. It is actually important for you to start building towards who you want to be beyond your eating disorder and recovery. It's work that I do with clients all the time, helping them to get curious and start to explore things they used to be interested in, things that they used to have time and mental space for, which the eating disorder might have robbed them of, and being open to the idea that, maybe I'm not going to be into that, but that stuff might give me some clues about what I'm currently interested in and what the future version of me might be interested in. And that's definitely something that I had to do. I had to explore and get to know, as I got to know that healthy part of myself again, what the values were that underpinned that healthy part of me who I'd lost contact with. And it was clear to me that my relationships, my friendships, my family, whether it was my mates and laughing with them and being silly with them, or with my family, sharing a really deep connection and that family identity, which I'd lost, especially with my dad. He and I, our relationship suffered quite a bit because of my eating disorder. And to be able to have that family identity again was really important to me. That was one of my values. My friends are a huge part of my identity, who I am with them, what they teach me, what we experience together. I lost connection to some of the most precious people to me through my eating disorder. And I had to take a big risk to reach out and say, hi, I'm getting better from this thing that we probably never talked about, and this is why maybe I behaved the way that I did back then, and I'm really sorry, but can we maybe hang out again and see if, we're cool or this works? And I was really lucky. My core people were there for me. They were open to us reconnecting again, long friendships, which are so integral to my identity. And it was the same with my family, being able to have open, honest conversations about my illness, about recovery, about who I want to be and what kind of person I want to be to them, and then living up to those values. There are some friendships that I even consciously decided were not healthy for me, were not conducive to my healthy self-value system. And even that was painful because it was, again, saying goodbye to this previous identity and making some uncomfortable decisions and having some uncomfortable conversations. And that's probably my biggest tip. At whatever stage you start to explore who you are in the absence of your eating disorder and then beyond recovery, is to be as curious as possible in every category that you're sort of exploring. Relationships, like I just said, or your interests. There were things that I was interested in before my eating disorder that just didn't really fit in with all the lessons I've learned and all the progress I've made throughout this part of my life, the eating disorder part and the recovery part. And there were things that I still did resonate with, which I could build on, like I said, that were clues of at least where to start. And I just kept an open mind. I read a lot. I watched a lot of documentaries, and through that found out I have a real interest in cults. I went to events. I went to free talks. I watched a lot of people talking about their own experience, their lived experience. And I got really curious about what my healthy instinct was telling me to do, even though I didn't know necessarily where it was going to end up. Point in fact, this channel. I followed this instinct, which said to me, keep posting. That feels good. Right back to those people who are saying, oh my God, thank you for that video. That makes sense to me. You just spoke to me and that really helped my recovery. With like 4 people watching and then 10 people watching and then 30 people watching and then 100, and now there's like 53,000 of you. When did that happen and how? How it happened is that I did something which I felt was reflective of my values and who I was and my skills and what I'm good at. And it felt good to be good at something, even though it was totally unexpected. And that was one of the biggest rebellions against, my eating disorder past, because it would only ever try something if it knew I was going to be good at it or I was going to be successful. And this was such an experiment. This was so about being curious and just being like, it feels good. That's reason enough to do it. I get to talk to really nice people in the same position. That makes it worthwhile. It's making my recovery stronger. That makes it worthwhile. I just stayed curious. I just kept an open mind. And that led to not just this amazing community and my sense of purpose in my advocacy, but my career as well now as a coach. And that is very dear to me and a big part of my identity. And for me personally, working in the recovery space was a reflection of my value system. You are not obligated to go through an eating disorder and recovery and be like, I must become a recovery coach. I must, help other people recover. This was reflective of my values, my interests, and to be perfectly frank, what I was good at. I am a very, very good coach. I am good at what I do. I'm good at helping people and helping them to understand and helping them set goals. And I am also someone who is really driven to create my own content, to create my own material and put it out online. I studied journalism and had to drop out because of my eating disorder. And now I essentially get to do precisely what I always wanted to do, which is to write, to create, to engage with an audience on topics that are important to me. So like I said earlier, those earlier values and those earlier interests combined with this deep interest that I have in helping people recover, in understanding eating disorders, in being able to sort of speak their language in a way that helps other people. And also my deep interest in diet culture. When I say that I was curious, one of the first things I was curious about was, how did I get sick? And read things like The Beauty Myth and explored research and studies which really got to the heart of how diet culture and how marketing and advertising and how the fitness industry, cosmetic industry, plastic surgery industry all combine to normalize the very path that I went down and make it seem like it's normal and that's your life's purpose, to be small and to be conventionally attractive and to pluck your eyebrows, which I haven't done for 4 weeks. Can you tell? Those things just so happen to be areas of interest for me and a continuation of my prior value system and interests. They don't have to be yours. Like I said, just because you've gone through something doesn't mean that it has to be your path that you end up working in. If you do, excellent. We need as many people as possible talking about their varied, diverse experiences and hopefully helping people, but only if it's your passion, only if it's your interest. It is very, very rewarding and it feels good to have turned something painful into something purposeful. That doesn't mean that my eating disorder is still my identity or that recovery is still my identity. It's very clear in my mind that one is professional, one is career, and who I am and my personal pursuits and my personal relationships and how I identify personally offline and out of my 9 to 5 Monday to Friday are quite separate. I kind of compare it to someone who might have gone through cancer in childhood or as a teenager and then becomes passionate about helping others because the passion is there, but the ability is there also. And yes, I know I'm going to have people being like, you're so arrogant, but I don't care. I'm good at what I do. It's okay to say that. You can say that too. Get curious about your non-professional interests as well. Get curious about the way that you want to engage with movement. For me, I used to run. I hate running, guys. It couldn't pay me enough to run. I hate it. Do you know what I love doing? I love hiking with my friends. Why? Because we do it together. We do it slowly, and then we usually end up at the pub afterwards. I was curious about that. I was willing to try all different kinds of movement, which my eating disorder self probably would have frowned upon or not thought was exercise, like strolling or gentle stretching, crossed with yoga, like really gentle yoga, or hiking, or all these things that it wouldn't have deemed as exercise. It was like, well, that's not part of my value system to thrash myself and hurt myself. It's to connect my mind and my body and to have them both on the same page and to be with my loved ones and to connect to nature, right? To get outside, you'll see all over my Instagram, sunrise, sunrise, sunrise. It's wild down here in Mollymook. The sunrises are out of control. And that was part of how I reshaped my relationship with exercise, was to be curious and to see it's not actually part of my identity. It's an expression. It's not who I am. It's how I get who I am around and make sure that I'm enjoying that movement. Be willing to try anything. Be willing to try something and hate it and try 10 things in a row and hate them. That is okay. That's truly how you do it, guys. You've got to be willing to try. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to try something and be like, I suck at this, or I don't like it. You might do 10 things in a row that you don't like or you're not very good at. Who cares? Do you enjoy it? Does it make you feel connected? Does it make you, mean that you can spend time with your loved ones? What are you actually trying to get out of it? If it's still connected to trying to be perfect or get it right, or everything must be, absolutely the best, then that might be a little bit of perfectionistic disordered thinking coming through. Some of the best ways to challenge the eating disorder self is to go out and intentionally suck at stuff and be okay with it, or talk yourself through it until you are okay with it, to normalize sucking at stuff. I think people ask this question a lot because they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to fail at who they're going to be. They're afraid that recovery is not going to be worth it if they're not this ultimate version of themselves. Guys, let me get you off the hook. You are not going to be perfect. That's the beauty of recovery, is that you are working towards the acceptance of imperfection and seeing the beauty and the opportunity in being imperfect. I love being imperfect because I always was and we always are, but now the expectation isn't there. I'm doing my best. I try my best. Sometimes I don't. When I feel like it, I do. But you don't have to be perfect at life after recovery. That's totally missing the point. You're allowed to suck at stuff. You're allowed to do stuff just because you enjoy it. You're allowed to let go of not only the old interests and patterns, but the old ideals as well. I don't know if that was helpful. I'll tell you how I don't know, because I didn't really prepare for it. I just off the cuffed this one because I'm not perfect. And I'm not trying to be perfect. And that's the biggest takeaway from this video. I hope that this makes sense. I hope that you find it useful. I would love to hear from you guys about what you discovered through your own process, or what you are discovering, or maybe some of your fears about establishing or figuring out who you are. Establishing is the wrong word, because who you are is not a fixed point. It is who you are constantly becoming and how you are constantly evolving. And that is so freaking exciting. Imagine if we just got to perfect at say 25 and then you were done. Like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? The learning, the trying, the failing, the up, the down, that's what makes it all worth it. Truly. You got to have some down stuff to realize that, though, I think. Just how high the high is when the low is low, aka my 2019. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Come and find me on Instagram and Twitter under What Mia Did Next, doing a live with the wonderful Meg McCabe, who is another eating disorder recovery coach, over on my Instagram this coming Monday, 9 a.m. Sydney time. You might need to look up your time zone for that, because there's a lot of time zones and you guys are from all over the world, and it would take 35 hours for me to go through them all. This is unnecessary. Edit this out, Mia. Anyway, guys, hope you have a beautiful weekend.